Today on the podcast, we have Spenser Macleod. He's an artist and a skateboarder. He went through all of his process and how he got from drawing in the back of the classroom to then doing murals for Adobe. It's so cool to see somebody do the thing that they love and be able to make a living off of it. And we talked through the different steps and things that he went through to get to where he is now. And it's cool. His art's amazing. I think you'll love this podcast if you like any sort of art or even skateboarding. We got into like how skateboarding is an art form. So check it out.
How did you get into art? I would start with that. And like, how did you even start? Because me and you have been skating for a long time. I've known you for a long time. And You've always been an artist. You've always been, drawing and doing that stuff. So how did you even get into it?
Yeah, that's where do we even start? It's so crazy to think how time flies. But yeah, so I think the beginning of it all was just being a kid and drawing all the time and being encouraged by my parents to, continue to draw. And both my parents were artistic. My dad drew cartoons and stuff when he was, in his, middle school, high school years. And my mom kind of peaked it a little bit when I was younger. So I had the art family bug, but they weren't professional artists in any way. So just through school, I just drew all the time. And in high school, I took every single art class I could get my hands on and took AP art. And I was always the kid in the back of the class drawing instead of paying attention. So it's funny because during our friend Ian's bachelor party, I have Ian's brother-in-law now, Prom. He was in my class and he goes, "It's so cool to see that you made it as an artist because you were always that kid in class just drawing on your paper." And I was like, no way, dude. It's so weird to like hear that after, I've been in high school with 15 years or whatever, it's just crazy to be like, yeah, dude, wow, time really does fly. And I was that kid just drawing all the time. But to jump forward, I had a really, really awesome art teacher in high school who pushed me to apply to art college. So I ended up applying to Maine College of Art in Portland and got accepted and went up there right after high school. So it wasn't something I wanted to do. I wanted to go to community college. It was cheaper and signed a bunch of student loans. And here I am driving up the highway going to, Maine College of Art. And I ended up going for illustration. So it's kind of a weird major in art school. It's, for me looking around, I'm not a huge anime fan. Sure, I do like, you're here and there anime stuff, but you got a lot of kids drawing anime style art, not really my thing. And illustration's a very broad, degree in school. You could be a book illustrator. A lot of people think that when they think illustration, but I just did 4 years of drawing. So I really developed my style and character design and stuff like that. But it was the drawing. So I never stopped drawing. It's just one of those things that I just always did. I'm trying to think of what was your question, Token, and where can I bring my from college to where your question was? Did I lose?
My question was just like, how did you get into art? But you kind of
okay.
You answered in a little bit. Yeah.
It's interesting because it's like you can take all these classes, but there's got to be, I don't know the science behind it, but there's got to be something like in you that allows you to do things next level. Like I took art classes, but dude, I can't draw for shit. Like I think there's that thing, like you can grow up around it and maybe that's part of it, but there's got to be some sort of thing. Like if you and I took 10 of the same classes, I think you would still be able to draw better than I could. I don't know what it is because like I tried, dude, and it's not there. So I don't know if there's something involved in that or if it was just like you spent so much time drawing that you got that much better.
Yeah, that's a really great point because I always tell people, everybody's like, "Oh, dude, I could never do that." And I'm like, in my opinion, everybody's an artist and you have your own style. Yes, I've taken many, many years and time out of my life to perfect my craft and to figure out how to draw things. But yeah, maybe just the amount of time that I did and the influence of being so into art subconsciously, I think is a factor. But to getting into where we met, Dan, at one point was, through skateboarding is a huge point in my life where art was a huge factor in the skateboarding world. And I started skateboarding when I lived in Wakefield, Mass, and I was probably 8, 9, 10. And art and skateboarding go like hand in hand. So it was always, skateboards are cool because they had cool graphics, and I was into redrawing those. And I look through the CCS magazines and redraw, every single skateboard logo, and my notebooks would be covered in skateboard art. So I do think that was a pivotal point because I was obsessed with skateboarding. And then through taking classes and stuff like that, kind of developed into like, all I'm thinking about is skateboarding and art. And it was just like, cool, that was my focus. And with school, being able to either take notes or draw all day, it was let me draw all day long. So I think that's how I got into art, and then took it to school and learned a lot.
And it's cool because you're doing something, in my opinion, like I didn't know being a muralist, if that's even the correct word, but was a thing. I knew people drew murals and did that, but I didn't like you had in Portsmouth, the company Custom Pools, and you were doing their mural. And I know I grew up with the owner of that. Yeah. And I was just like, oh my God, like you got hired to do their sign, you know what I mean? Like their logo. And it just blew me away because I was like, I didn't know it was that major. Like you were doing big things like that, which was pretty cool to me.
Yeah, no, thank you. So it is weird to get from like a person who goes to art school for illustration to be like, I'm out there in the world making my living doing murals and design and paintings. That's a huge, I think, gap that I can talk about because, I see a lot of people like that friend in high school looking at me and saying, wow, dude, it's so cool to see you've made it. And I don't even really realize it because time goes by so quick. But not that I say I made it, because I look up to all my other friends that are crushing it in our world. And I'm like over here, counting my pennies, making sure we get by. But
I made it.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, so to get to that, I'm at the second full year of doing art full time. This is my job, and it comes with a lot of factors. But it's funny you bring that up. Like, I didn't even know people do murals as a living. It really is a niche thing, because it's like, how did I get there? I did my first paid mural like 12 years ago in Kennebunk for a guy who was starting a gym. And the reason he reached out to me, it was all through word of mouth, and somebody that I knew that I was an artist, and I knew how to spray paint was a huge thing. I learned how to spray paint in college and really figured out how to handle the can and do all that stuff. And with that skill, I was able to do large scale murals. And so that first one I got paid for, probably got paid like $200, and I was like 21, but
paid more in paint than you got paid for.
Yeah, totally. But now that same guy painted that first job, he's now doing Airbnbs, and I'm doing murals in each one of his Airbnbs, and he's got a handful on the East Coast. So it's so crazy to see the lineup for that stuff.
Yeah, it's one of those things too, like it seems like any other art form where you just keep doing it and you keep making the connections, and like the next person may lead you to the next job, and after people see what you can do, it's like they just want to hire you because of what they've seen. And it's not necessarily you have to go out and like market yourself like, hey, I'm a painter and I do murals. It's like word of mouth seems to be a big thing for what you do.
Yeah, I mean, really being in New England, I mean, come on. It's I would say pretty much all my jobs are word of mouth. I mean, connection after connection. I would say maybe like 15% are random ones that either find me online or find my Instagram and go that route. But almost a lot of the basis of them, like deep down, even if it's like a web of connections, is through word of mouth and being known in the area and stuff like that.
Did you have like a major breakthrough at one point, like from illustrator to like painting that first mural? And then after that, was there like, you said you've been doing it for 2 years professionally now. It's like, was there like, this is going to be it? I'm going to be able to do this?
Right. So there was a 10-year window between that first job and me, saying I want to do this as my job. So there's 10 years of me, which included college, but also working. So I always had a day job. I was always, I was that dude. I was like, I have to have a car. I gotta travel and skate and go on trips and do all this stuff, but also still have a job and still try and pursue my dream of being an artist. So it was a long journey, but learned so much. So like, I'm trying to think of like how to branch the connection, because it was just, I was always working. I was, I work all day, whether I started at Hannaford, started at the bottom as a, bagging and all that stuff, and made my way up to a manager and all that stuff. And then I ended up leaving that job to work for a watercolor painter through a connection. And I was like, yes, I got an art job. Cool. I'm finally gonna, do what I want to do. And it was the worst job ever. She was more of a drill sergeant than and if she ever hears this, I'm gonna feel so bad. But you taught me a lot, Tracy, out there. I mean, our personalities, I don't think, clicked. So I was going to be like, oh, I'm going to learn from the best. She was an amazing watercolor painter. And it was more of, I'm going to do the grunt work, the things that, like the assistant, I'm going to be sitting there. I'm going to frame her watercolor paintings 40 hours a week and cut mats and do all the printing and, and then set up booths at Freiburg Fair and sit there for 10 days and try and sell her paintings of her kids. I mean, it was like, I'm like, I can't do this forever. So that was cool.
Yeah, it's funny because a lot of people don't understand the grind and the hustle that it takes to do, they say you made it, because you're getting paid now doing what you love, but it took you a while to get to that point. You always had to hustle before you can be like, and it's scary to jump and be like, okay, now I'm getting paid. This is what I'm going to do. You have a family. I need to support. This is it. It takes it. You can't just jump into it and be like, oh, I'm going to make it. You have to have that side hustle. You have to have those jobs.
Right. So like, I'll go off of that statement alone. I worked for Habitat for Humanity in Kennebunk as a manager after the watercolor. I was like, I got to go get another job. So I got another job as assistant manager. Awesome job working with volunteers. It was really social, physical, humping furniture, grabbing donations. It was awesome. But like, to that point, I was always also painting on the side. I was taking vacations to go do mural installs. It was like, hey guys, I got to take a week off because I got to go paint, this, what do you call it? Like a storage facility down in Mass, down in, God, I can't even think of the name, like Shrewsbury, like I got to go paint these murals and leave my day job. So it ended up getting to the point where I was like juggling too much of a schedule that I just kept thinking, I'm like, I need to make the leap. And it was one of the scariest things I've ever done, because I had, salary position, full benefits, job security, all set, love my job, but I knew that I needed to make that jump. So a lot of other things happened in my life to make that decision happen. But I always looked to a friend, Ryan of mine, who's also a full-time artist, always looked up to him as an older brother. And I would call him all the time and be like, dude, how are you doing it? Because I know you did it too. Because he also worked corporate Hannaford, and he left to do art. And he's like, you got it, dude. You got the drive. You have the motivation, the work ethic. So do it. And I'm like, all right, dude, let's do it. So it was a scary, scary jump. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, it's one of those things, like you're never ready, like for any of this stuff. If you want to do something creative, you've just like, you think you've got it, and like, you just have to jump and go for it. Like, there's no way to tell if it's going to work or not unless you just go do it. And like, you will try harder than you've ever tried if like that's your only thing, So I bet that's part of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's so much easier said than done. I mean, it's so cliche to say that and corny or whatever, but dude, until you make that jump and you're like, all right, it's on me now. I'm my boss. I'm the one who has to get, be motivated to get out there and get money. It really puts a fire in you. And then so with my life, I don't know why my camera keeps doing that thing. It's crazy.
It's sweet. You got these little pan zooms going on.
Got all these effects going on. I'm like zooming in. I know, it's crazy. Yeah, we're my upstairs in my house in Kennebunk. But yeah, so a lot of other things happened in my life. Me and my partner, my fiance, we had a child. So and this all happened at the same time. It was like, much like today, trying to figure out how to like get everything to work. It was just like, boom, everything happened at once. And Kayla and I had a discussion, and I was like, I want to leave my job. But at the same time, we're having a baby. And so she supported me 100%. And I was like, oh my God, okay, here we go. I'm going to call my boss. I'm going to put my 2-week notice in. And that was one of the scariest things, sit in my car, like kind of being like, damn, should I just back out of this? I'm like, nah, I got to call her. I got to tell her that I'm going to leave my job. I'd been there 7 years. It was awesome. But she goes, I always knew this call would come because I know you want to do art full time, but she's like, I'm so happy for you to make that decision. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, okay.
That's awesome though. And to have your wife have your back, or your fiance, it's like, that is huge, because if she didn't trust in you, you know what I mean? Because you're the leader, the provider, if she didn't have that trust in you, you probably wouldn't have done it when you did.
Right. And I mean, same to go, like everything, falls in line. It's like, okay, baby's coming. I left my job, luckily I got the support from my family too. I mean, family and friends are like, yeah, you got this, dude. Like, no sweat. But the scariest thing is, it's like cool to do that, but it's like, do I have the jobs for the future? Because that's the thing about this career is it's kind of like being a commercial painter, like painting houses in a way, or contractor, but it's so much more limited. I look at these painters, I'm like, cool, somebody's building a new house. You're going to be needed at some point if you have the connections. But like for murals, which is where I make a lot of my money, is doing my own jobs. It's the people they want them. Not everybody needs a mural. They want to have a mural. And hopefully they pick me because or they reach out to me, or through the web of connections, somebody mentions my name, because there's so many other artists in our area. So it was scary.
And that's just it. It's like such a niche thing. It's like, because we had the office, the restaurant in Rye, and we hired someone to do the murals in the bathroom. But it's not a need. It's something extra. If you have a little bit of extra money, or oh, I think this would be cool to do this, or put a mural here. And that's why it's so niche. And that's why I was like, I didn't really think that people, I thought, if you were just an artist and you could, draw really cool, people would ask you, but it's it's a thing. I didn't know it was like a thing.
Right. So to go off of that, I always tell people, they're like, how do you do it? Because like, obviously you can't survive alone on doing murals, because like you're saying, like it's not an essential thing for businesses necessarily. A lot of people, okay, so to like square back through, alone with my drawing, I also learned I've always wanted to learn every aspect there is to make an income in art. So whether it's design work, graphic design work, logo design, sign painting, which recently, the last couple of years, I've really gotten into, which is a whole different beast and craft. Murals is my bread and butter. And I also work for a team. So we're hired as private contractors to work for another artist, and it's collective of us. So if somebody's got a big job, they'll hire the team, and we can go out and travel the country and do murals through that as well.
That's cool.
So yeah, it's one of the greatest things, because my schedule gets busy. Excuse me. My schedule gets busy with my own stuff, but then I also schedule around with the team. So whether we're going out to LA to do a job or Portland, Oregon to do a job, I still have my own jobs at home with my, my own style and clients and whatnot. So it's like, there is a lot of factors to be like, cool, like, how are you doing it? But there's so many ways that you need to be able to make money being an artist. Yeah, I mean, I could go even further because, like, okay, so like you were saying, Sean, like, how do you start? You also do small painting. So I also do fine art. So I got that bug too from being in college and being when I left college and I had all these drawings and I was doing watercolor caricatures of famous people. It's like, what do I do with all this stuff? So then I was like, skating in Dover, New Hampshire, I'd pop into a bar and be like, hey, I'm an artist. I got a bunch of framed, pieces. Could I hang it up? There's a bar, Sonny's in Dover. That was one of the first places I ever hung up my art. And they was like, yeah, cool. Bring it in, hang it up, and hung it up, I think, for a month and sold 5 or 6 things. And they were cheap, like $75. But for me, I was like, cool, people want to buy my art or my fine art or whatever you want to call it. So that's a whole nother, factor, a whole nother income that you could do, because a lot of artists are just fine artists and they can sit in their awesome studio all day and sit there and use their oil paints and, sell a painting for $14,000. That's not me. But to keep my foot in that world is super important. I recently, last summer, had my first solo show, my first fine art solo show in a gallery, which is it was a big deal to me. It was a small gallery, awesome spot, Nache in Portland, but it was the first time I was ever reached out by a gallery to be like, okay, we want you to do a new body of work just for a solo show. And
That's
so
awesome.
I did. Thanks. Yeah, 25 new pieces, painted all summer long. And yeah, had an opening. It was great.
Oh, so they give you a couple months to do it?
Yeah, they'll give you, I mean, if all goes well, sure, a couple months, but a couple months to paint 25 new paintings
Right.
is insane. I mean, you have to be in the studio every day, but then also be like, I'm not going to make money for the next couple months because I can't work, or vice versa. And then it puts a lot on your family because you're like, guys, I got to go to the studio. And they're like, okay,
Right.
I want to paint. Cool. Yeah. Like, is that a job? It's like, yes, I swear, eventually I'll be famous, whatever.
Yeah, just give me the time I need. The artist needs to think, It's like,
Yeah.
it's tough. I mean, some of my friends say the same thing when you're like, yeah, I'm going to film this. And they're like, oh, cool. Like, that doesn't seem like a job. And it's like, dude, it's tough. Like, a lot of this stuff, like leading into the gallery showing or like the big mural that you're doing, it's a lot of prep and a lot of like mental like preparation probably that goes into a lot of your art. It's not just like, oh, I just sit there and I paint and it's done.
I wish. Yeah. No, totally. Yeah, to talk about that a little bit, it's to the fine art stuff is a whole nother beast because it's like you hear people, I mean, I'm sure you guys know, like, writer's block. It's like creative block. It's like, how do you, and it happens more than you want it to, but for me, it's like if I'm on a tear of fine art painting in the studio, my brain almost never leaves that mode. So I'm always thinking, like, the second I go to sleep at night, and then in the morning I wake up, that first sip of coffee, it's like, if I'm in that fine art creating paintings mode, I'm just thinking about that 24/7.
And how hard is it for you to switch from those modes, like fine art and then all of a sudden like mural, a little bit more abstract? Like, how hard is it to go from one to the other?
You would think that it'd be more difficult, but for me, it's almost a reset. So, this summer I painted fine art more than I have my entire life and did a new body of work, which I was like so proud of, to have this whole new body of work with new stuff and new techniques that I've learned over the years. But then it's like, as soon as I get onto a mural job, it's so refreshing to be outside and have a brush in my hand or a spray can or what have you. And it's just a whole nother section of the brain. I think for me, it's really refreshing, but it is a lot physically, because you ask anybody who knows me in regards to art, I work 24/7. I'm always busy. I have to, I have jobs lined up. I'm just always working. So it is exhausting going from the studio all day to being like, oh, cool, I have like 3 other install jobs, but then to come back to the studio for the creative mindset's a whole different beast.
And you got to do some pretty cool stuff. You and Ian started like a wheel company, and you got to put some logos on that. I've seen you put some logos on some skateboards and stuff.
I've always wanted to do my own line of clothes. I've always wanted, me and, our friends, Ian, my brother Hunter, like we'll do a run of shirts, and that's cool. And, we'll sell those. It's awesome. And I've done my own, like, always making stickers and fun things like that to sell. And that's something I definitely want to visit down the road and do a line of clothes and have a store on my website and all that stuff. It's just, I never have the time. I think for me, it's like, if I'm not working on site on a mural or a sign or anything, I'm in the studio painting the fine art stuff, I guess.
You got to hire an assistant, have him do your dirty work. Like
sell your paintings for you, offer them that job. Yeah, they'll think it's like, oh, it's going to be this awesome job. And then you're like, hey, go buy me art supplies.
Yeah, right. Go prep this canvas over here for a few hours. I got a bunch more on deck. Yeah.
And then they'll be on a podcast talking about you. They'll be like, oh, man, I thought it was going to be the best job ever.
Oh, I hate that dude. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's cool, the skateboarding influence, too, because it definitely comes out, I think, in some of your mural art is like this graphic, like street urban look. I don't know, I'm not very like versed in art as much, but like it has this, like, I don't know what the aesthetic is that you would call it. Like, what would you say your mural painting is like?
It's always hard for me to describe my work too, because like I was out in LA and met this guy, and he's like, oh, Spenser, what kind of work do you do? And I'm like, I do it all. It's weird. I do feel like a mad scientist because I have so many different styles that it's almost a flaw for me. Because like if somebody says, I'm going to give you a wall and I want you to just do your thing, I could tell you that style. It's a combination, it's got some graffiti influence. It's got some skateboarding influence. It's got some classic vintage tattoo, flash tattoo influence. It obviously has pop culture and vintage cartoon influence. Your 1950s, Disney cartoons and stuff like that. I love old stuff. I'm also like a collector. So there's like all these references that come up in my work that until I tell you, people are like, oh, I didn't even see that old character from a soda company or bubblegum. Like there's so many things. So I think what it comes down to is I guess what kind of work I'm doing at the time. Because like if I'm doing just a mural for somebody's logo, I enjoy every second of it. It's not as creative, but it's very straightforward and stark. And it's like, cool, I'm going to go paint this logo. It's one color, blah, blah, blah. But then if I go do my style, it's kind of crazy. People are like, whoa, it's so psychedelic or whatever. I'm like, not really. Like it's got a lot of, stuff hidden in it, but it's a mashup of collage of imagery. I don't know if I answered your question, you guys, but
yeah, for sure. I think it's cool though, like to be able to do those, like you said, you switch from fine art to the like graffiti-esque type thing. Mm-hmm. What do you think is the hardest thing when you're like trying to learn how to do a mural? Because like spray paint is cool, but like how do you control a can?
Yeah, spray painting is nuts. Because that's all I used to use for a big chunk of that learning. For that first 10 years, almost all of my murals were spray paint. So when somebody reaches out to you to do a job at a gym and they're like, what, I'm bringing my spray cans, and you show up with all these buckets full of paint, and you got some people looking at me like, what is this kid going to do right now? Is he going to tag the wall? And then I'm like, oh no, I swear to look cool. Like, don't look at it till the end. Like, it looks bad right now until I outline it or whatever. But spray painting is also a secret craft, I would say. If you know how to, there's some amazing spray painters out there can do realistic imagery that's phenomenal, but it's a really great medium for doing large scale stuff fast. And so you know how to use it the right way. It's the answer for those large ones. But just over the past 5 years, it's the technique of learning a brush that I've really brought into my work that I've really wanted to perfect. And so it's like using a commercial house brush and learning how to paint murals with that is huge. It lasts a lot longer than spray paint. Spray paint's shelf life, if it's sitting in direct sunlight and doesn't have a clear coat, if it doesn't have a clear coat and you're using bright saturated colors, it could fade out, in 5 years if it's sitting in the sun all day. But if you do it with a brush, and you're painting it like you're painting a house, you're looking at 15, 20 years.
Yeah, where the paint's maybe a little thicker and you're applying more of it, maybe.
No, exactly. Yeah. And it's like the surface, did you prime it? There's so many things that I've learned over the years of how to properly paint something. But yeah, people want to learn how to spray paint all the time. I'm like, it's going to take you a little while. I mean, people can pick up something pretty quick, and you really got to spend time learning how to use a can and what kind of paint to use. And there's so many different factors, but it's a really great skill to have if you need it,
What is your favorite piece you've ever done?
Damn, that's a great question. Well, I'm always, every time I paint something, I want to beat the last thing I painted. It's just like my own competitive self, battling against myself. So I just finished a new mural in a restaurant in Portland. It's going to be open up in the spring. I just finished it. Took me 10-hour days. Like it's a 36-foot up high above the bar, all brush and like fine art details work. Everybody telling it's my masterpiece. It's my Sistine Chapel. I can't wait to show everybody because it's some people are gonna be like, you painted that? I'm like, yeah. I finally had the opportunity to paint something that took me forever, and it's highly detailed, and it's so opposite of some of the work that I've done. But I'll call that my favorite piece. And I don't want to say the restaurant name yet because it's all new and to be, but yeah, right on Exchange Street in Portland. It'll be coming out in a couple months, at least the restaurant name and stuff. But it's a really, really cool mural.
And now with that, and you obviously don't need to drop the price, but like for something, when you're saying you spent 10 hours for 10 days a day doing something like that, like what would the price be, or like around, because that's a lot of time and a lot of detail. Like you're sitting there for a long period of time. Like what do you charge for something like that? What estimate, I don't want to drop, what you did, but.
Sure. Yeah. That's a whole nother, there's so many factors. You guys are bringing up some great points, because that's a huge thing in the art world, especially in our area, is like knowing your worth. And I started from the bottom, doing stuff for free just to be able to practice. You know what I mean? I'll do my own murals. Like there's a wall in Saco that me and my friend have that I can just go paint whenever I want. And that's, all good. But when you get down to the, the end of the day, now I'm looking at jobs like, cool, am I going to drive all the way to Vermont for X amount of money, or am I going to try and get those bigger jobs? So with knock on wood, I finally hit the level where I can do less little jobs, and some of these bigger ones I can take my time on. So something like the restaurant, it's a hard one to, quoting out a job is one of the trickiest things ever, because there's so many things involved. So at the basis, it could be an idea from the client. So then as soon as they reach out to me, and if I agree to do the job, I'm already working. My brain's already working. I'm already like thinking of ideas, and then if we get into the details, you're writing a contract, and you're, getting half up front to get things going so people don't mess around with you. There's so many things. But for a decent side, let's just say an exterior wall. This is an interior one. It could be anywhere from the lower end of things, I would say like $5,000, or on the higher end of things, $30,000. It all depends on how detailed the job is, what kind of budget the place has, and how many revisions of a sketch, and how involved you are in the whole process.
Oh, so do you give them a sketch beforehand? And like kind of like, this is kind of what it's going to look like. That's actually probably pretty smart.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys reach out to me, I'm gonna be like, cool, this is your guys, if let's say we're gonna do a, mural in your studio, Sean, it's like you're reaching out to me. It's your mural. So we're gonna do everything we can to make sure it's exactly what you want. Unless you're reaching out to me to be like, cool, we won't want to, like, you're crazy,
Like
do whatever you want. Yeah.
No.
And this is how much money we have. It's like, all right, cool. Well, we could find our happy medium on that. But there's so many different steps, and it's much like building a house. I mean, there's so many different little details that you have to like work out until you get to the site and start, putting hammers and nails together, So there's tons and tons of prep work.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned the mural in the studio. It's definitely top of mind. So, I mean,
all right, give me a call.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at your work and I was like, damn, this would be cool. Yeah,
Sean's budget's 50,000. So
no, it's not, dude.
No, we check my bank account.
Dan's paying for it. Apparently.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it would be cool. It's all just like dark walls in here, and I think that's what we need is like something cool and some sort of art that is not. I mean, framed art is cool, but I think it's like when you have somebody like yourself come in and do a piece, it's like this exists here and nowhere else.
And it's hand painted. Yeah, exactly. It's a one of a kind piece. And yeah, that's a whole other thing too. It is, when you have a person's hand in it and you can see the craft and the imperfections, it makes it connect to people. I mean, straight up, if you're looking at a printed banner, cool, but if something's hand painted, you look at it and see brush strokes, or, you see little splatters and little imperfections. There's a quality to it that people can connect to, and then it's also a one of a kind piece of art that nobody else has,
which is really cool. And I think more of that stuff is becoming a thing where people want something that is made by somebody, handmade by somebody. It's like we want more of that handcrafted stuff now more than ever, because I think we're like inundated with like so many things and items in the world, and everybody has the same thing, and you want something that just feels like it was created for you, or like you found it and it feels like it fits your aesthetic.
Yeah, I mean, that's the cool thing about the fine art world too, is, I've been lucky enough to be involved in a couple of group fine art shows. There's one in Dover right now at Casman's Gallery. So I got to paint a mural on the wall and put up a series of new paintings, which is really cool. But people can if they really like your work, they can find a piece they like and take it home. And they have a one-of-a-kind original painting. So there's something really cool about that, too. I mean, prints are cool, and photos, obviously, are a whole nother beast. But to have a hand-painted thing from an artist you like is really important. So, yeah, right now, it's great. And I do pretty good selling my fine art stuff, too. They're not crazy expensive, but, I paint them quick, and I want people, if they dig it, to, if somebody's really, into something, I want somebody we can figure out how to, you can have a peace of mind,
Yeah.
So,
have you ever thought about doing a mural and cutting it into pieces and selling?
Yeah, I've already done that. Yeah.
Oh, sick.
Dude, I was just like, holy shit, what a great idea.
He's like, I've already done it. I've done it 10 times. Yeah.
I have a new idea every single day that I don't want any more new ideas, because it's just, am I going to go down that thing, another path? It's just, I have my hand in so many different things. But yeah, I've definitely done the paint a mural and cut it up. It's so cool.
And now when you do something like that, you paint a mural, you cut it up, do you sell it off to like different people and they just don't know? Or you say, this is part of a mural, you have one piece of it, like you let them know, or how does that work? I think that's so cool.
I've done both ways. I've painted a temporary wall of really nice plywood, and then we've picked out the best sections, kind of like a viewfinder, picked out the best sections and then framed them up and sold them, which was super great for myself, because I'm like, there's so many little elements that I'm like, cool, I don't really care about that part, but this part looks so good when cropped. So I was like, damn, I actually want to do that more, because it's hard for me to paint restricted. When you can paint large scale and pick out your favorite part, it's really, really awesome.
See, I think it would be cool to paint a huge wall. Like maybe this is what you've already done, but this is what I think is like, say, a Picasso. You paint a big wall, you cut it up into whatever many pieces, you sell them to whoever. Say there's 10 pieces. When you die, or when you're 80 years old, and you're a big famous artist, then someone could be like, oh my God, I can buy these 10. I got to find these 10 pieces all over the world, put them, and then eventually, one person can put it all together. And I think that's really cool.
That'd be incredible. Yeah. So even like I was saying, like I picked like 4 sections out of a large scale mural and sold them, right? I had all the scraps. So I ended up taking the scrap pieces and framing them out and selling them separately at a whole nother years later. You know what I mean? So like you're saying, I do have scattered pieces of a one continuous piece out there in the world. I don't know where they are, but
that's awesome.
That'd be really cool. But then the other way, I've also painted a mural, a full size, let's say like a 30-foot mural by like 10 feet, and then put one canvas in the middle on the wall. So that I painted the whole thing with that canvas in the middle. And at the end of the day, after that session was over, I just took that canvas home with me. So I feel like I had something to take with me, which is like, I didn't just waste my time and get that cool photo of a mural. I actually got to take a physical thing and then I sold it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's so funny you guys went that way, because it took me years to figure that out. Come on.
Sean's good with them. Sean's quick.
I don't know. Dan and I come up with like crazy ideas. We don't pursue them because, like, same with you. You're like, I can't do all of these things. Like, we come up with these random things. We're like, oh, we could do this, and then it's like,
but you have to. It keeps the juices flowing.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like, it keeps your creative brain going. I think when I tell my wife all the time, I go, me and Sean are so alike, because he'll come up with these ideas and tell me about it, and I get super hyped on them. And same thing. But my wife, just like your wife, they're like, all right, enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
stop, please. This is annoying.
Like, I shouldn't have even thought about that, because I can't go down another hole right now. Like, I'm working on this project. I can't do anything new. That's like, okay. So for example, it's that and me for painting styles. I want to learn them all. I don't want somebody to come to me and be like, I want you to do a realistic portrait of my dog, and then be like, nah, I got to give it to my friend because I can't do that. I want to say, yes, I can do it all. I want to be able to do every single thing somebody asks me. So it's taken a long time to do graphic design. I did beer labels for Bad Lab when they were around in Somersworth, and Stoneface down in Newington. I've done their beer labels. I mean, there's so many different factors. And then, my brother Hunter, Hunter, Dan, we get talking the same way as you guys. And I'm like, oh God, Hunter, here we go. We got another scheme on what we want to do for a new project. I'm like, dude, we can't. Come on.
Dude, I got one for you. Ready? All right. So you make a mural that you cut up, and then you somehow create this, like, people need to find the pieces. Like, maybe it's like you sell it off to certain people and they have to, like, find the other piece, or maybe, I don't know, like some sort of treasure hunt for pieces of your mural, like whether it's at a restaurant, and like maybe it's like you just bought a piece, but it's somewhere in Portland and you got to find it or something. I don't know.
A scavenger hunt.
People love that stuff.
Yeah.
That would be really cool. Imagine if it was a mural cut up in, let's say 6 pieces, and they're like scattered around. The whole event is like that, searching for those pieces.
Yeah. Maybe you have to visit each location to see all the pieces and like take a picture of them where they are, and then they get like a print at the end or something.
Yeah.
It could be like a social media marketing thing. They like have to post and tag you.
I think about it all the time, because when you're your own boss, it's like, how can I make money? And so you want to do something new, especially with social media now. It's like, yes, it's really cool because you can show your whole body of work, your current body of work to the public, and you never know who's watching, which you really never know who's watching. I've got friends that have had amazing jobs, and I'm like, dude, did they reach out to you? How did you get this job? He's like, yeah, dude, they reached out to me. I'm like, holy shit, dude. That's incredible.
Is that one thing you do? When you do social media, do you just take photos of your murals, or do you do like fun, are you on TikTok? Do you do fun things like while you're painting, or no? Like, what do you do marketing wise, I guess?
Totally. Lucky enough for me, I want to do a whole lot more. Obviously I don't have time to do any of that stuff yet. But through word of mouth, I, have the jobs I have, which is cool that I don't need to put myself out there as much as some folks do. But I definitely am envious of some of these folks that are out there like filming themselves painting and being on top of it, because social media is so important to post every day or, be in people's faces, especially when you're an artist, because the more people see your stuff and be like, oh, cool, they're really out there working, really out there doing a lot of cool stuff. So for me, I try and keep it, I wouldn't say bare minimum, but pretty close to like being at least out there, on the radar. If you follow me, I try and do something, whether it's, taking a picture of me painting. The other day I was up in Augusta painting windows at a tattoo shop. So this is like a quick clip of me, with a brush backwards in the glass doing some sign painting stuff. So it's, I would say, pretty close to the bottom on social media where I should be. I want to do a lot more. Hunter's helped me out huge because he's all into photography and filming and stuff like that. And he's got the aesthetic that I love. So I'm like, Hunt, all right, come on site with me for the day and, take some pictures of me painting, whatever. And he's psyched to do that as well. But I need that more. And I think the people that do it really well are really successful on social media, and turns around and brings you extra money, more jobs. So
let's do a video. Let's do it.
I'd love to.
Yeah, sick.
That'd be sweet.
Yeah. The cool thing about doing murals is your site. Yeah, I mean, every site is so different. I could be hanging from, the roof on this is exaggerating, on a swinging scaffolding doing a large, size building mural, or I could be, at a tattoo shop in the middle of nowhere painting some glass. I mean, it's really cool. We have to go at night, project this huge thing, and then at the end you get to see this result over, just a little sketch on a piece of paper. That's this beautiful 100-foot mural. There's so many different things. It's really cool.
Do you meet a lot of other mural artists, like when you're either out and about doing murals, or if you like visit some other spot? Like, is that like a good connection where you like find other artists and you're like, hey, this is cool, like let's work together?
Yeah, I mean, you get it. Sometimes it's a distraction being on site in the public because people want to talk to you, which is awesome. Like, I've done live paintings. I'm always the guy that's like, all right, we need a live painter. Let's hit Spenser up, because when they'll say yes, and he'll go do live painting. And live painting's funny because I've done a couple jobs, and you almost want to have your painting like complete when the event starts, because so many people want to talk to you that you don't want to just start with a blank canvas, because shit, you're never gonna get it done. So
Right.
I've learned over the years, it's like, if you're gonna do a live event, let's have it like 75% done, because a lot of people want to talk to you about painting and stuff, and that, everybody's. Yeah, you got your artists coming up, and look at my art on my phone, and all this stuff. It's really cool.
You do a lot of those, like live, like say it's an event and people are there, like whatever, like hanging out, and there's like music going on. Do you do a lot of those, like where you paint live?
I do more than I want, but it's kind of nerve-wracking. It took a long time for me to feel comfortable doing it, because you got to be confident. I mean, some of those first ones I did with my own art, I'm sweating bullets. You try to, more people are looking at you over your shoulder. Even like, the other day, an audience, painting just some letters on a window. Like, you're always being looked at while you're painting, so you got to block that out. But I do quite a bit. Me and my friend Ryan, who I work for, he got a job working for Adobe, and we got to go to the Adobe Max conference in LA, and we did a live mural, Ryan's mural, and I got to help him. So that was cool to be like at the Mecca for, so many creative minds, especially like in the, graphic design world. It was crazy. It was really, really cool to do a live painting at Adobe.
Yeah, I feel like more companies are having artists do murals in their buildings, and like, because it's that one-off, like we have something cool that feels like our team and it feels like who we are, but also has this like artist influence. So it seems like more companies are doing that.
Definitely. And you're getting the younger generation now that, like, because Spenser, back in the day, if you were tagging and doing whatever, you were considered, a skateboard little hoodlum, but now it's much cooler. A lot of buildings, like you said, have murals, and I think it's the younger generation now that own these businesses and companies that's the stuff that they love, and they're bringing it to their work.
Well, and they want something unique. It's like, cool, we could be, your stark, stale, whatever, or we get this cool new mural and it's going to bring people's eyes over and they'll be like, whoa, what's this new business or whatever. But back to the live painting thing, I don't think a lot of people have seen live art being made. Cool, you could see a mural, but to see it being painted, not a lot of people have seen that. It's a huge thing. I mean, especially if you're doing a large scale mural on the side of the building, people come to you like, wow, I have never seen anybody painting with a spray can or seeing the sketch up. It's like, yeah, it started from just a sketch on the wall. But yeah, it is cool because I have seen a big turn. COVID was surprisingly huge for us artists because so many people, I guess, were like inside and got a chance to think about what they wanted. And we got a lot of jobs, because it was something that you could just, paint and not have to be around people or whatever. But it's definitely like a changing of the times. A lot of people want murals or hand painted stuff. It's cool.
Yeah. Have you seen, there's this guy, I don't know his name, but he's a brain surgeon, I believe, in Boston. And he's a graffiti artist and muralist.
Oh, that's cool.
I've heard of this guy. Do you remember his name?
Forget. I think he was in the Boston Globe last year, but I thought it was so cool because I think he's like a brain surgeon. He has a mohawk and he also does these like cool murals and people are like, this is insane. Like number one, how do you have time? And two, it's like not something you see like a brain surgeon doing. You're like, this is
we're going to say
weird thing.
Instantly cool because he's got a mohawk. I mean, like instantly you have an image, that's always a thing that you got to think about. It's like, how are you going to stand out from the crowd? It's like, oh, I got a mohawk and I'm a brain surgeon. Cool. This guy's going to be famous for sure.
Yeah. I think we've changed the way that people can look and like, oh, an artist can also be a doctor. It's like, that's okay. And like an artist can do other things. And like you said earlier, everybody has a little bit of like artist in them. It just like depends what it is. Like some people are really good at writing and maybe they don't know it, or like even skateboarding has an art to it. Like doing tricks, like that's not something that just comes to everybody. And like going through a skateboard trick is also an art form. And maybe that's sort of influenced you somewhat.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up because just like, these last few years have been the least amount of skateboarding I've done my whole life. It's just funny. It's because like the thing that really brought me to my career now is the thing that I'm like longing to like have the hour and a half, 2 hours out of my week to go do because I love it so much. But I've been looking at it more as an art form than ever before. It really is. I mean, if you see Mark Gonzalez skate, he's not doing the sickest tricks, but people love to see him skate because he's skating beautifully, or he's got his style. It has nothing to do with the tricks in a way.
It's funny about style because when you look at those old skate videos, like I loved Antoine Dixon because his style was so chill and laid back. Like it almost was like he wasn't trying. But some people hated that and they loved the style where they almost fall off their board landing a trick, or it just looks so sketchy, but it's like, damn, you made it. To me, I look at that like I would redo it because I want it to look, like Antoine. I want it to look perfect, effortless, stuff like that. But, the skate world, it's such a different, diverse community of people and thinkers and everything.
Well, right. And exactly what you're saying is it's art. You're like, oh, I want my art to look like this. And so, and everybody's got their styles or whatever, but it's just so weird that riding around on a piece of wood, and, millions of people love it. And it's such a big thing. But goes to...
And Spencer's still nasty. You're still nasty. No, he's still nasty.
Yeah, so you're doing 80s in the Mega Ramp back in the day.
Mega Ramp.
Come on, dude. Come on.
You guys are both good skaters. I cannot skate for shit. And I tried when I was little.
Shit. Sean, you were out ripping the one-wheeler.
Yeah. That's my skateboard. One-wheel camera. I'm futuristic over here.
Holy shit. That thing's insane.
Yeah. Yeah, we filmed that stuff. I still have to put that together. There's some really dope stuff because we shot some like red slow motion when you guys were down in Boston. No damn.
Fun.
and ate some shit.
Dude, I was so sore the week.
Dude,
oh my God.
Imagine. You kept going after that ledge, like,
oh my God, I forgot about that, dude. Damn, that was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, skateboarding, snowboarding's the same way, where it's like, I think it's Zeb, I forget his last name, but he's an incredible snowboarder. And same thing with him. He has this like buttery style that when he does a trick, it's just smooth, and he's not trying to like do anything insane. But when he does it, it's just so good. You just want to watch him snowboard. And skateboarding's totally like that. Like when you see somebody skate and do something almost perfect, it feels like such a cool way to watch it, and like an art form.
Yeah, I mean, this just came up in my head, but I'm like, seeing somebody paint live, especially spray paint, because it is so fast and so physical, you're getting to see their style of painting and doing live spray painting stuff. I mean, there's so many things that I could say, like, not everybody's seen that. It's, now it's a more normal thing than ever, but like back in the day, you're not seeing people do live spray painting stuff, really. I mean,
right.
But totally you get to see the art form, at its natural state. It's really cool. You're not just, oh, cool, 1 second, look at a cool wall, be like, that was cool. You're actually, seeing the style and the making of that, I think is really huge. But yeah, live art's really awesome all the way around.
Yeah, you get to see how people are thinking, like their thought process of putting this art piece together.
Yeah, I mean, so much of that stuff's muscle memories, exactly like skateboarding, snowboarding. It's like, yeah, I know how to spray paint, and it's just all second nature now, muscle memory. But it's, for me right now, is learning to master painting with a brush that I've always longed for, that I always was like, I'll get there someday. I got spray painting, I got my bread and butter. I can make money doing that. But now it's like, okay, getting a little bit more mature and figuring out some different crafts and trying to perfect things. And I don't know, there's something about painting with a brush. I never thought I'd get there to be like, I absolutely love it, I'm obsessed with it. But it's new now, and I feel like I'm figuring it out. But painting with a brush is a whole nother beast, much like skateboarding. It doesn't sound like anything crazy. You guys are like, oh, cool, paint with a paintbrush, yeah, do whatever. But there's so many different things about painting with a brush. It's amazing.
That's cool. Yeah. So where can people find you?
Yeah, totally. So my Instagram is Leonardo da Vinci, and my website's just spensermacleod.com. I got some fun projects coming up in the future, and then that big masterpiece mural should be revealed here hopefully within the next couple of months. It's really something cool. But yeah, that's in Portland.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Well, we appreciate you coming on. This was cool. I'm glad we got to talk through your art and skating and everything.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. I'm glad we figured out the bugs this morning. Got on a combo. This is awesome.
Word up. I'll see you Sunday.
Yeah. See you then.